Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Beyond the Pivot podcast, a podcast that brings you insights about what's happening on the African continent, insights from startups, and also from the investment scene. Super excited about today's session. We have Francis Stevens George, who's from Sierra Leone, and today Martin will be leading us through that session to just learn about innovation in Sierra Leone. So please tune in and let's get into it.
Hello, Francis, and welcome to Beyond the Pivot, the podcast that takes us to a journey through African entrepreneurship ecosystems where we try to discover how things are done in different countries, different communities, and how startup founders and startups live in these communities. Welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to share, to share ideas, to share stories and learning. Thank you for the opportunity.
I feel like we should be thanking you for making the time more than the other way. And Francis, so you are a very interesting human being. You are from Sierra Leone, then you lived in UK, Norway, and now you are back in Sierra Leone. And I read about you, and it almost felt like a Hollywood movie, So could you perhaps tell us more about you and your story? How did you get into innovation space, and what do you do now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so yes, as you said, I left Sierra Leone, and some things that happen in this life. At the time, it seems like a disaster, but then it turns out to be serendipity. So when I took the high school exams here at the age of 15, 16, the results for the entire country were cancelled because they suspected the papers had been leaked beforehand. So at that time, my grandfather, he says, nope, I don't have any more money to waste on you. So go find a job. So actually at 16, I already went to work in the Bank of Sierra Leone, entering in a big book. I mean, pen and paper. I made so many mistakes. They gave me a pencil. And I did this for 3 months. And then an uncle one day saw me and told my grandpa, no, you know what, I think this guy is very good. So send him to school in England, let him go finish. Fortunately, my grandfather had the resource. So I was sent to a boarding school in England. All my friends, they went back here to school again to resit. I went to work. And after some months, I was sent off to England to go study. And and my grandfather said to me, I don't have any money. So if you fail, you're coming back to Sierra Leone. But if you do very well, I will continue to pay for you. So in the school, it was a boarding school. Everybody was enjoying. I was sitting, working, studying all the time. And so I got very top O-level and A-level grades. And I ended up going to the LSE, London School of Economics, to study. And again, I was very good in sports in school. But when the school sent a message to my grandfather that they wanted me to go to the town, it's called Shrewsbury Town, to be doing some athletics, my grandfather says, no, I'm not paying for him to do athletics. I'm paying for him to study. So anyway, I ended up in the LSE, and there I made lots of very good friends. Some of them are still my friends. And of course, among them were the blondes, the Norwegian, the girls and the boys. And that was my first girlfriend. And I just fell in love with the whole Scandinavian thing. I was also a member of the Norwegian Society. It was open. 86, I went to visit. I loved it. And then another thing happened again. By the time I finished university, there was a war in Sierra Leone. I couldn't come back. Also, my grandpa had died, so everything I knew was gone. And I thought he said to me one thing, find a job. So I decided to find.
Listen to the advice.
Yeah. And then, I was doing some little journalistic work for like West Africa magazine. Anyway, so then my girlfriend, we done. She says, okay, I'm going back to Norway. I said, yeah, so what? She said, you can come with me and you can study. So I left. I went to Norway. This was in 1990 and decided to take my MBA. I had some small savings. But I also got some loan. Yeah. In those days in Norway, it was really very good. As long as the school took you, you got a loan. They were also trying to build up the MBA program. And there was really when I began to see technology a little bit. It was there in 1990. There was no mobile phones, but I some friends, they had some little thing, they could find information, and I was learning a bit of coding. So anyway, I finished, and then I began to work for the largest Norwegian company in '94, and that was where it all began, because I was put on a project to see how we can digitalize some of our processes. And this was when I became a bit in this space, yeah. So, but to make a long story short, I've always been the kind of guy who's been exploring. So I had this explorative thing, but so I began to work for this largest Norwegian company. I got my first mobile phone. Da da da. Again, something happened that in hindsight, it looks like a very disaster, but actually, so in 96, I was sent to Paris. I was based in Paris, and I really loved Paris, but I began to hate the job.
Mm-hmm.
I really began to hate the job. And then there was something in Paris called the Minatel. It was like the first really internet thing. You could go in, they fix it on your phone at home. You could type. So then I bought my first computer game. It was called Comanche. Then I bought Flight Simulator, and I'm like, wow, then of course the mobile phone, the internet. And in 1999, my boss and I, we had a talk. He says, Francis, you're not enjoying this. I said, nope, I'm not enjoying it. And then I said, I think I should quit. So I quit, came back to Norway. Walking down the street, I met a friend of mine from school. Hey, Francis, how you doing, man? Da, 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 I'm fine. I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm making websites. He says, and you're very creative. Come join me. This was how it happened. I went to join him. It was front page. We began to make websites. And from there, I thought, Guna, I'm going to set up my own company. This I love. This is for me. And yeah, like they said, the rest is history. And I just fell in love with this. I began to write. I began to do a lot of research, creating papers, innovation, set up my first website called E-Trade Africa, helping people from Africa sell. This was really very exciting times. And just before I finished this one, I was already seeing endless possibilities. So in 2002, I heard the war in Sierra Leone was over. And that they were giving $300 to the ex-child soldiers. And I said to a friend, we're having a beer. Why don't we give them a computer and teach them how to code? He called the BBC. The BBC next did call me. And then this was all this big article about me. I was in the European Union. The late Kofi Annan invited me to New York. I was in Der Spiegel. I was quite famous. And then I realized, wow, this was really... But 23 years later, this story is still, I use it as a reference to show that I have always had this dream that technology would be a great enabler. So even to today, I still refer to this. I also developed a model which I showed at that time, the digital divide was about hardware. And it's interesting, it's 60 years ago, the Moore's Law this week. I said, it's multiplying. So it wouldn't be about hardware. It will be about digital literacy. So we need to start to teach the African people how to use these technologies. Anyway, I stop from there. I stop there for now.
Yeah, I have so many questions. I have to say, if it took you 3 years to talk to your boss that your job sucks, I mean, that's still pretty brave. You have a patience.
Yeah.
For those things. And also, I like that you said that it was pretty much a coincidence that you met your friend when you went through Oslo after you returned from Paris that showed you this world. Do you think that you did not fall in love really with the technology, but about the creative process? So do you think when we are teaching people about IT and software, we focus too much on the hard skills, not really on the fun behind it? I love fun creating. I don't have fun with the processes. So I wonder if you see that could be a little issue there as well on how this technology education is approached.
Yeah. Excellent question. Excellent question. Because technology is like, we had the people making the fire, they made the boats. In the old days, if you go to the Viking Ship Museum, you see all these things. It was really a means to get to somewhere. It was, and the people who really, the ones who were very creative and saw that they could use the wood, they could use this. I think it's the same thing with technology. I think, like you said, the focus sometimes has been too much on the technology itself and not really what it can solve. So what I see today in Sierra Leone, after being here now for the past 7.5 years, building the ecosystem, is that people fall in love with the technology. Maybe that's understandable because in Norway, I also remember like 25 years, no, 30 years ago, it was more or less the same. We were in love with the technology. People were just developing stuff. Then we begin to see that truly creative people, that where the creativity was a spark and then the technology was just a tool, they were the ones that began to win.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now seeing a very slow transition in Africa but then there's also a very important thing. If you look at the educational system and then you put technology within that educational system, then in Africa, I'm afraid we have a problem because technology is not part of the educational system. Even more troubling, creativity and innovation is not part of the educational system. So these two factors which are absent here makes it very difficult, I would say, to get really truly creative spark people. In fact, we have a generation that unfortunately is a bit lost. I lecture at the university and I lecture creativity, innovation and entrepreneurship. And I see how trying to get my students to really, do the vertical thinking instead of the linear thinking, problem solving approach. This is very taxing for them. Very, very taxing. And yeah, so I believe that in other countries where we've seen that it's the creativity, the creative spark that is leading to how we deploy and use technology, you see some amazing things there. Now this gets very complicated. I know it gets very complicated because to be creative, to be able to create, society has to allow for what I call differences. Society has to allow, for that weird people. If the society doesn't really accommodate somebody who's different, again, you create a place where anything that sparks of creativity is considered either you're crazy or you are mentally disturbed or something. Conformity is the rule. And in creative spaces, non-conformity is the key. But again, I see more and more acceptance of diversity, of differences here, of people doing something different. And I would like to say that the space we've created by allowing everyone, by not discriminating, I think has brought a level of acceptance to this space. We accept it for musicians, but we somehow don't want to accept it for people, who want to create amazing products.
Yeah. Education is kind of ever-spanning topic. It goes through the entire society, and I have to say, we have the similar issues over here. Like there's, if you are in school, it's only a right or wrong answer, nothing in between, and that creates conformity, as you say. People that would be loved by your grandpa, get a job, and that's about it. So it is the safe space, but it doesn't lead to innovation, I would say, or to bringing new ideas. Even those people are necessary, like this conformity and the safe space. But let's back to not how is in Czech Republic. And once you get back to Sierra Leone, I saw that on your profile you created 6 startups in very different fields, and also this innovation SL. So it kind of shows that you are not the guy for conformity. And which field for you was the most fun to be in? For Was it the E-Trade one or the health tech with the medical doctors or something else that you enjoy the most?
See, I enjoy when I'm providing real value for people, for customers. And to the extent that that value is exponential, I can see it, I enjoy. That means easily, it's two. It's the West African Doctors Network I created, the very first one in 2001, and what I'm doing today. Because, the e-commerce, I was doing snakes, I was doing kettles, I was doing all kind of t-shirts. But it's moving goods. I know somebody gets money at the end, but the West African Doctors Network, I really hit a very painful thing immediately. Because when I created this, I actually saw that the internet created lots of free articles. So Plus Public Library, something in America, they had Plus Biology, Plus Medicine, etc. Because I know that I have uncles who are doctors, that those journals very expensive, and you were subscribing to them. If you're really not a rich doctor, you don't get them. Then I also saw that there was RSS. And at that time, all these journals online, they created an RSS code that you can pass this onto a website. And I thought, I read somewhere that in Africa, the big problem is access to knowledge. You have all these free articles. Let me make something. And I just built the website myself using front page, did an RSS feed, bingo,
Mm-hmm.
and put this out there. Before I know it, one of my very first customers and my biggest champion was a guy called Dr. Oyibola, Folajo Oyibola from the University Medical School in Ibadan. He says, this is what we've been waiting for. Where did you get your funding from? I said, no, I'm just a normal guy in Norway doing it. And then he told me the kind of journals. So then with him, and I got a guy from Cameroon, from Ghana. The next thing you know, all of them were on my website. And I was giving them more and more. Then WordPress came along and I decided to migrate. So I moved on to, actually first it wasn't WordPress. It was called Joomla or Mambo.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, yeah. Before it was called Mambo, now it's called Joomla. Then came WordPress, then came Drupal. I tried all of these CMS, WordPress, Mambo, Drupal, and then I settled for WordPress and I converted the website. And then, of course, they could have discussion forums.
Mm-hmm.
In that process, a guy from Switzerland sent me an email saying, oh, he has a doctor friend in South Africa that somebody told him there's this website. He has telepathology. Can he connect it? If I can provide a place where they can upload their images, of course. So from just being journals, we then now had a telepathology hooked onto it. Then a medical company contacted me, said they just have some stethoscope. And this stethoscope can give you the ECG reading. And they've been doing a pilot project with a guy in the northern part of Norway where they have to fly the children by helicopter to the nearest hospital only to find their heart murmur is innocent, not pathological. At that time, I don't know if you remember, Martin, but African footballers were falling down on the pitch dying.
Mm-hmm.
There was a famous guy from Cameroon, I think two of them, and then the guy called Kanu. He was a famous footballer. He had to stop playing because he had a hole in his heart. My website was there. We used this. We got the stethoscope. I came down to Kolibu to set up the whole thing so they could record. So all of this was because of this platform I'd created. Then 3 doctors that were my editors, they ended up getting scholarships to go and study. One of them, Dr. Babaselo, we are still in contact. He messaged me the other day. Every day he's telling me thank you because it was that platform that he used to apply to go to Kansas. And then the guy from Cameroon all of them. Dr. Oyibola set up first digital library, etc., etc. So for me, this was the one I enjoyed the most. And in terms of outcomes, yeah, the iPath, the platform, I would go in there, I would look at things. There was people from Switzerland, from South Africa, from the US, giving second opinion on medical things. So also this platform gave me quite a lot of, I would say, like, people got to know about me. A magazine wrote about me. Yeah, it felt really very good. And it felt very good, I have to say. Lots of hard work, but it felt really very good.
I like that in the story, you started with one problem in mind, right? Like educate the local public from free resources. But by lucky coincidence, because luck is always important, it spun out to this platform where people were giving second opinions, you were selling stethoscopes, you got doctors to study abroad or to better schools. I'm sure you met then the famous footballers to help them with the stethoscopes as well. So it went from, hey, there's a bunch of free resources. I'm going to create a website. I'm sure, I don't want to speak to you, but that business model behind it maybe wasn't that clear yet in the beginning.
Right.
To like this great platform, they saved lives over time.
It was exactly. And you see, this is the important lesson that I bring here, that it would have been very easy for me to try to solve all, but I took one problem: access to free medical journals through using Real Syndicate, the RSS. What I also did was that some of the journals, I would ask the RSS to only take out things that had Africa in it. So in a way, I was also now curating content, because for somebody to go read Plus Biology, well, I mean, it could be on anything, but except, but I wanted things to do with NTDs, neglected tropical diseases. I wanted things to do with, so as the technology got better, I was using it to get more relevant data for my constituency. And as you said rightly, that then opened up other opportunities. And with the platform, rather than doing it myself, I found people who could do this. So you build this platform and then you begin to plug and play. And this is what I tell some of the startups here. You have to take the main headache or the main problem, do it very well, and then you can then begin to add other services. But if I wanted to create telemedicine, it would have been Imperial. So
yeah, I was about to ask if that's one of the lessons that you give in Innovation SL. Maybe you can introduce what you guys do in Innovation SL, but it seems that a lot of people, when you tell discover a problem, then they will discover a problem of like world hunger, that kind of giant thing that's unsolvable by one person. So is that something that you see often in Innovation SL from the new founders?
Yeah. So the key word you mentioned there is problem. And again, I have to take you back to the educational system and maybe the culture thing a little bit. One of the key challenges with founders here is that they are not able to really define a problem. So sometimes what is the symptom, they pass as the problem. Sometimes they don't realize that a problem is not a problem, it's a condition that has created some kind of opportunity. But if this condition change, that opportunity will disappear. So you have to really find what is the problem. And for many of the startups here, this is the number one thing. So they come, they have a good solution, but actually that solution is not solving what they say the problem is, because that's a symptom. The other thing is, again, because of lack of education, they don't know the types of problems that exist. So I said there are 3 types of problems: simple, complex, and wicked. Which one are you trying to solve? Most of them, they go for wicked problems, not realizing that a wicked problem, it's not the problem in itself, has different manifestations. They create other problems. So they come with a simple solution that would never solve that problem. And I also tell them, as a startup, please look, and you mentioned this, they want to solve 10 problems. Find one that, what I call the trigger, that is the trigger to all the things. I give you an example. All of them, youth unemployment. I want to solve the problem of youth unemployment. I want to solve the problem of low productivity in the farming. And I said, okay, what causes low productivity? And they said, well, the people use poor farming methods. Okay, so how are you going to solve these problems? Well, by modernizing. What are you going to do? By modernizing. No, can you tell me what are you actually going to do? Oh, well, I'll introduce a tractor. Really? I'll do this. I say, yeah, but the farmer has a small field. He won't even get one wheel. How long a tractor? How can they afford a tractor? And then you begin to go back with them. Well, have you thought about the crop? Have you thought about the type of crop that they're growing? No, sir. Okay. Rice, cassava, maize, potato. Do you know the productivity among these? I know, sir. Which one do you want to solve? And then you begin to see this revelation. And the success we've seen are the ones that said, you know what, let me take this apart. Let me find what is the real problem here. I give you another example. Post-harvest loss. 60-70% of, on average, is rotten before it hits the market. And somebody comes to me and says, well, we're going to make a cold storage. Nice solution. I ask him, for what? He says, for the products. What kind of products? Or just, no. Are you going to put cassava in there? So again, you have to think of things that are going to perish very quickly. And then you make a solution for them. And then you come to the other thing. Where are you going to put them? Oh, I'm going to put in a central location. Where is the farm? It's in the village. How are you going to get the product from the village to the central location? By transport. Is the transport refrigerated? No. Then your cold storage is nothing. I never thought about this, sir. So this is the kind of thing that is really showing the educational system, that we don't have an educational system that is taking people through. I mean, you and I, we went, this is the thing, when we have a case study, problem solving, we ask ourselves, why? And then you get here, people see something, they said, and then back to your first question, oh, there's technology. Without no creativity, without anything, you're going to put a tractor in a farm. A guy can't even ride a bicycle. Yeah, how is he going to ride a tractor? So, yes. So, to answer your question, this is the number one problem here, the definition of the problem. Because once you do that, you begin to understand what is the pain that the customer is feeling, and then you find a solution that addresses the one with the most pain, and then you start to work out of that. Yeah.
I feel like it could also, like you said, start with 70% food is perishing, but that's just the starting point. You have to start having the discussions, then figure out what you can do and how they solve the problem, if at all, if it even bothers them right now. So can you give us some example from like Innovation SL? I know when I was on your pitch day, there was a lady who started to do baby formula, which was surprising. For corporates already own this formula board, but she started doing the business herself. So do you have any stories that you can share with us on what happened in Sierra Leone or maybe in other countries when they work with you?
Yeah, so typically what we do is that we always start with the diagnostics, because we need to make a diagnosis. If this is a new business, well, actually any business, we have to do a diagnostic. So we have a framework, which is three phases. The first is the problem solution fit. The second is the product market fit, and the final phase is the business model market fit. I just told you about the problem is the issue. So this phase is the phase one. Do you have a problem solution fit? And really is asking two fundamental questions. Have you validated that this problem exists? That it's not in your head, it's not a symptom. That means, have you asked enough people? The second fundamentally it asks is that, is your solution to this point better than what is already in the market? Because if it's not, well, people don't care. I mean, there's a third thing which is answers, but normally we say, yeah, if it's the third thing it asks is that, is there enough people experiencing this problem to warrant the investment? If it's just a small, forget it. So what they typically get from us, the first is to validate that this problem exists. And that's usually research. It's usually show me the data, show me what you've done, who have you spoken to, etc., etc. So we use a lot of time in that phase to get that problem solution fit, because that also involves doing something very important. It involves understanding what is the process the customer is going through when they are experiencing that problem. And if you then look at that process, you will find that each of the process the customer is going through, they're experiencing some pain, psychological, physical, emotional, etc., etc. And you then begin to understand what is it that the customer wants, because then your value proposition, why should I buy from you? Or why do I solve this problem better than my competitor? It will be communicated much more clearly. So this is why this phase should not be underestimated, because if you don't get this right, your go-to-market strategy, your communication, even the next stage, which is the MVP, would be a wrong MVP. Because, so let me give you another example. Getting a taxi in this country is horrible for everyone. Yes, it's really a nightmare. So what is the problem? Getting a taxi? Not really. You need to understand, what do I need to get a taxi? And then within that, you discover. So there are what we call the jobs. If I want a taxi now from this office, I have to walk. I can't call. There are no service. I have to walk from here up the road. It's very hot. Then I stand in the road and the taxis are coming, and maybe they turn and I'm waiting. When the taxi stops, they ask me, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Juba. Oh, it's too far. I'm still standing there. So all that pain, first there is a physical, I have to, then there's the emotional. He's not good. Okay, let's assume he says, I'm going to Juba. You said, how much? He says 20 leons. You said, no, I don't have 20. Then he moves on. So you're still standing there. All of this, if you want to make a solution to this point, you need to understand what is the major headache that the customer is facing. Then we do the work. Okay, who's your customer segment? If it's a mother with 3 children after school, there's more than emotional pain. There's also danger. She's going with 3 children. So you develop a solution for her, and not for a guy like me or half of the staff here. They can walk. They don't need this. So you have to find that. So that's what we do with them. And then they really begin to, and even some of them, they come by and say, you know what, Mr. Francis, I think I've changed. I think I've changed because I want to do this. It's small. I said, it doesn't matter. Solve it very well, build your reputation. So we then move on to what we call the product solution, the market fit. So for example, if we take the mother or young person, okay, do you make an app or do you just give them an SMS to send? All of this is very important. The product has to fit the market. So yeah, so that is what we do with a lot of them. It's a very interactive process. We give them the tools they have to discover. And Martin, once the ones that have gone through this process, they're growing. They're growing the business. Yes, they're growing the business because now they understand what the customer needs.
I like the story because they're not growing just their business, but also themselves, right? So if
Absolutely.
It's very likely that the business will fail, right? Like that's the nature of startups or any business that's starting. Even if you do everything right, you still
Yeah.
discover something you didn't know.
Yeah.
But once you learn those skills, those you instantly become
Mm.
employable,
Absolutely.
better doing it the next time.
Also, what's important is that even if this business doesn't work, you now have the tools to how to look for other opportunities.
Yeah, I feel like it's in the end, if you have done it enough, it's kind of like a disease. You know, you walk the street and you see so many things you would do or you would try and so on. So
Addict, you become addicted.
yeah, exactly. You become addicted to it. And I know that you mentioned that I think last week you guys had a startup World Cup in Freetown. Did you guys get anybody from Sierra Leone that you worked with there, or anybody that you feel like we should know about to keep an eye on?
Yeah, for me, sitting there was really, I was very emotional because all the Sierra Leone startups that were pitching, they've been through Freetown Pitch Night. And somebody came up to me and said, I really didn't know the good job you guys have been doing here, Francis, because I can see these guys have been exposed to pitching, and that's because of you. So we've been built, and this is what I am telling my staff and people every day. Think beyond this competition. What we're doing is we're giving hope. We're building the confidence so that one day when they go to these international competitions, they're able to. So the three finalists have all been through Innovation SL. In fact, two of them have personally coached them. And one is using salt water to conduct electricity. Then you have a lifeblood, this guy who has this app to blood donations. I remember 3 years ago when this guy came to us with the idea, he came through everything. I said to my team, I want to work with him because I knew this is very big. And I predicted if he wins the local OSVP, he goes to Rwanda, he will win the whole thing. I predicted it. Then you have Money Me. And again, this thing about understanding the problem, the customer journey. Lots of people here, maybe 95%, they've developed payment systems. Payment systems.
Yeah.
MoneyMe has created a platform to connect all these payment systems because they are not talking to each other. And now it's become the biggest thing here. So everybody, it's just so interesting that interoperability was the problem. Not because there are already too many payment systems, but interoperability. So he understood this and he created a platform that allowed. Now, he also did this, I have to say, with, like a kind of vision, a hope in mind. And I've seen myself done that a lot, where you're too quick in the market. But he knew there was a national switch that was being developed.
Mm-hmm.
And when that switch is rolled out, the company that is allowing everybody payment services would be the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Would be the winner. But then when it was there, people didn't understand what he was doing. So again, he was there. He didn't win. He was the guy with the water conducts electricity one. But I think Money is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. The ones that didn't make the final, you have Easy STEM. So Easy STEM, again, we worked with them under a program called GenU. Basically, they are providing STEM-related education offline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Martin, we have a number of interesting startups now in Sierra Leone, a number of interesting startups. So you should keep an eye on all of them.
Well, I don't know if we can put all those links, like for all of the startups in Sierra Leone, underneath the episode, but we can definitely put the ones you mentioned over here, so people can find us URLs afterwards.
I'm working on a report. Well, not me. I told my team yesterday to write a report. They just sent a draft. I can share that with you.
Sounds good.
And then you can take, but Sierra Leone won the whole West Africa, so we're going to send the person to San Francisco. But what it
Sweet.
also shows, Martin, is that we did a survey in November, an entrepreneurship survey, and only 14% of the people, because again, another thing is, I want to understand, why are people starting up? Is it just opportunity? Is it because they can't find a job, etc.? So, and then the important reason is to fill a gap, in the market. Only 14% of our respondents were filling a gap. Others, it was about,
Money
this.
and freedom is
Yes,
usually is
yes,
usually a response.
yes. It was an opportunity to earn a living. It was
I don't want to have a boss is usually the reason.
independence. I want to be independent. Only 14% was there to fill a market gap. And this is the 14% we want to work with. Because
Yeah,
then,
I was able to say, you are
yeah.
lucky that it's not 50%. You would have to have a couple of Francises there to work with them.
But 14% is actually the
Pretty
global.
good.
Yes, it's the global 14%. That means 80 something. It's just there for fun,
Yeah.
which is
I feel like based on the latest stats, I don't know how old they are, but about 10% of people in Czech Republic have some kind of business license, whether it's for themselves or a company and so on. So, it's pretty, like you said, average, I would say, normal. In the end, not everybody can be entrepreneur, right? Like we talked about in the beginning. Not everybody has that in their heart to do so. And how is like the government of Sierra Leone working with startups? Now they have this giant event and there's a lot of spotlight. Are they changing laws to make it more likely that people are starting startups, supporting it, or is it still very hard bureaucracy?
yes, excellent question, because this is the enabling part of the ecosystem. So in the past 1 year to 18, a lot of work has been done by the Ministry of Innovation and Communication Innovation. So you mentioned some of the bottlenecks. Registering a business. For like 5 years, I have been pushing that we need to make a process for startups, that you can go register your company without all of this articles of association, lawyer paper, none of this. Just go register it. You have 3 years. After 3 years, you can then now go do the big registration. I have been pushing for this. So the government, sometimes they compete with us. They do things they shouldn't be doing. But we have one very important thing going on, and that is a Startup Act. Again, we pushed for this, and we now have a minister that understands the importance. Because if there is a single piece of work, intervention the government can do, and we have evidence from this in Tunisia, in Kenya, Rwanda, the 4 countries in Africa that have Nigeria Startup Act, it's a Startup Act. Because then this defines what is a startup. It then enshrines, incentives like tax incentives, etc. for this. So it's been worked upon. We've contributed quite a bit to it. It hasn't got to Parliament yet for the reading, but last week I was talking to one of the officials. He says after the rainy season. So we're looking August, September. But with climate change, the rainy season is getting longer and longer.
Who knows when it starts and begins anymore?
So it may be November, they will tender it to the Parliament. Because I think this would really, we even hope it will cover angel investment, that if you're an angel, you invest in a startup, you can get some tax incentives, to do with taxation for startups, all these things. So that's the single most thing that we're very happy the government to work. The other stuff, I'm afraid, is just as problematic to register a company, to open a bank account. So this is, but you have different, now, it's too many different government, but they formed a unit called the National Investment Board that should now make registration. But, Martin, for the last 4 years, we've been told you'll be able to register your business online. It has not happened.
Yeah.
And
Well,
this is very simple.
I mean, we have been told similar things over here. They created a bunch of ID things, but it's popular. It wins election, but it's hard to do afterwards.
Yeah.
So you do education. You have a lot of people that come through your hands, and some are more successful than others. And most of them will require some type of funding to get it off the ground. I know that in Africa, there's something called Africa Business Angel Network. That's kind of like spanning a lot of angel networks in individual countries. So I wonder if you have any like Sierra Leone angel network, and if, for example, I would be like a foreigner, interesting investment. Can I become a part of a company as a foreigner as well? Because some countries do not allow it, So
again, excellent question, very timely question. When I was up in the Arctic Circle, you sit and all you see is snow and -20. I was actually working on as an assessment of the enabling environment for an angel network. So all the elements are in place for us to, yes, ABAN, the African Business Angel Network, which now has it's in 16 countries or so. They're investing, I think last year they did about 30 something millions, it's still small. But I have studied the report from 2023, 2024 report, and what I was looking for to see what we can learn from 3 countries, Nigeria, Kenya, and there was South Africa. These are the 3 big angel networks in Africa. So I reached a conclusion which I recommended, that we should start a network very informally, and then we learn. We learn from this. Yes, as a foreigner, you can come and you can invest, but angel investing is different from the type of investors that are used to come here. Somebody goes and they want to dig diamond or these things. No, angel investing is investing in a startup. It's usually a small ticket size. The investment is not the key here. It's the mentorship, is the access to market, network, etc. So the short answer is yes, you can actually do that. You can do that through Innovation SL. There are startups you can say, okay, I want to put. Then the legal framework is usually a safe agreement, which we now have some lawyer to design these safe agreements for us. But incentives like a tax thing is not in place yet. It's not in place yet. But before we go there, we wanted to do this informally, and then we present to the government, and sometimes say, hey, this angel network, it has invested X amount in da. But these are some of the challenges we face. Can you, if I invest in an angel network, for example, I can deduct that from income. Now, that would not, for my tax returns, that wouldn't apply to you because you're a foreigner. But let's say you create a vehicle in Sierra Leone, that vehicle should be able to benefit from that same also. So short answer is we are going to set up now. The name is a bit funny. It's called SLAIN, Sierra Leone Angel Investment Network. I don't think it's a nice name, but it's going to be. And the good thing is, because of this ecosystem, there is interest to de-risk your investment also. So if you can get a tax incentive, there are funds that are going to be able to help you de-risk that investment.
And what is the average size that you put in the startup, to start with? Is it $5,000, $100,000? I know it probably is going to differ between a guy that wants to do electricity out of salt water and somebody who does baby formulas. But what do you see happening, or the range being the most often?
So from the experience now I've seen, I think, again, I have to answer the question based on the first 2 phases, the problem solution and the product market fit. If you come into a startup that a lot of validation has already taken place. The problem exists. The market, the size is big enough. There is money to be made. The existing products or service is not solving the problem. Then it depends, because now you have to develop the MVP, and it really depends what we are developing, and that would require. So, and this is why I avoid an average, because it can be from 5,000 up to 25,000. Again, you may, depending on what this person is developing. That's one thing, the product itself. Then, if this, for example, is a product or service that needs regulatory licenses, then you have to be prepared to spend more, because this can get very expensive very quickly. To get this license, to have this, let's say fintech. A fintech, it can take you up to 1 year to get your application into the sandbox. There is a sandbox. Every new product has to go through a sandbox in the Bank of Sierra Leone. This can take you 1 year. And in this 1 year, what are you doing? So if, for example, the lady, they're making the baby formula, raw materials are cheap, then it's the testing and it's the machinery that you need to invest in. Sorry, not raw materials, labor is cheap. So it's the testing and it's the machinery you need to invest in. Again, depending on how you want to start, based on somebody we supported before, $40,000 to get the machines is a good investment. That means they've been selling, making this thing out of their backyard. Now they want to expand. So the market validation is there. It's just now to scale the business.
So that's interesting. I mean, it makes sense, so like, depends what you want to create. That's how much it's going to cost. Like you said, if I want to do construction materials and build skyscrapers, it's probably going to be more expensive than getting a keke, or something like that. So to leave on a good note, where do you see that you and Sierra Leone are going to be in let's say a couple of years? And why should be the Sierra Leone the place in West Africa people go to, to look for startups or build their startups there?
Yeah, excellent question to end with. First, this is like a petri dish. The ecosystem is nascent. So if you come here, you have an amazing opportunity to shape this ecosystem. You're not going to Nigeria, you're not going to Kenya, which are well mature, developed ecosystem. This is, I don't want to use the word the Wild West, but really you can shape ecosystems here. Second, whilst we do not have a well-educated workforce, we don't. That I'm not going to deny. We do have an very eager to learn workforce. So you can be able to, get a bunch of young people, you train them. The third, despite the infrastructure issues, people have electricity, etc., it's still relatively cheap compared to Kenya, compared to Nigeria. To actually, you can get a decent office here for $15,000-$16,000. You want to do the same in Lagos, you have to go $50,000-$60,000. So that's like I said, the ecosystem is nascent, so you can do experiments, you can create something here, you go and sell it. We have a location, big location advantage. It's 6 hours, maximum 8 from here to Europe. You can go from here to the other African country. Yes, it's a bit expensive, but it's not very long distances. We also now have Starlink, which has reduced the communication cost here very much. And the other day, I was told that Freetown, where we are sitting, is positioned us to be the something point for all the internet accesses. So I think these 5 reasons, and we've already demonstrated that we actually have a lot of passion, a lot of creative, intelligent people, not a lot, but compared to. The final reason I would say is that there's so many opportunities here to fix, to make money, but not only to make money, but to create impact. So many opportunities. If you take agriculture, if you take the circular economy, renewable, more than half of the people don't have access to electricity. We are still working with business models that are basically, I would say, not engaging the customer very well. It's I bring a product, I give it to you, you pay me. We're going to see more business models that are going to be based on my needs. So products that are based on my needs. This is where, again, we've done something on AI. AI has huge opportunities here, especially in education and agriculture, not the other things. So we have a lot going for us. Now, yes, the electricity issue, etc. These are, but I don't think this is enough. I would say 1 year ago, more than 1 year ago, the internet connectivity was a bigger issue for me than electricity. Much, yeah, because I can buy a generator and run. This is not a problem. And really, light comes, light goes. But the cost of the internet was just too high. Now, 50% less than what it was. This we are seeing is leading to a lot of products now being developed. Even we're developing platforms that before I was thinking, how are people going to access this platform? Because, so yeah.
So the utilities are going down. There is a lot of things to fix, so a lot of problems to address. I remember there is direct flight to Brussels, so that was also exciting for me. So I assume that within the next couple of years in the Startup World Cup, there will be more Europeans and people from not Sierra Leone that will be part of your angel network, invested in Slane and in those startups that will be presented at the World Cup. So with that, I hope I will be one of them if it works out. And Francis, what is your last message to people? What to follow and where to find you?
Yeah, I'm here in Sierra Leone. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on the Facebook. My last message is that today we live in a world where poverty can really be addressed. It can be addressed. It's not about big NGOs, big things. It's really, I give you globalization. The first phase of globalization was about big companies. Then it became about governments. Globalization is now about individuals. One person can sit here with enough. Look at TikTok. Look at all the others. People are making money. They're developing content. They're outsourcing work, etc. Each and every one of us, we now have an opportunity to look for a startup in a place like Sierra Leone that wants to solve a food issue for maybe 500-600 people. That in itself is how we can begin to address food insecurity, etc., by looking for startups that are local, not from outside, that are local. Because at the end of the day, talent is evenly distributed across the globe. Evenly distributed. The only thing that is not is opportunity. And this is why if you have the opportunity, you have to come where the talent is. Look for talent and invest in that opportunity.
I couldn't wait to be one of those guys to invest with you in the talent, where the opportunity is.
And
thank
that's
you.
what I've done. That's what I've done. Coming from Norway here 7 years ago, this is what I've done, is to give opportunity to people so that they can develop themselves.
And with that's an invitation to people to choose Freetown as their retirement destination.
Yes, and lots of sunshine, so you don't get all this arthritis and all these things, and lots of people who can care for you.
So perfect and not discovered yet. So I welcome everybody to join Francis. And take care, and maybe see you and hear you at the next episode.
Thank you very much, Martin. It was a pleasure. Have a good afternoon.
Hi there. Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe, like our page, and share all the insights that you get from this episode. So up until the next episode, see you next time.